In this episode, we interview Jordan Foley, founder, CEO, and head chef at Let's Chow. Let's Chow is a dedicated community builder, providing a pathway to learn vocational skills in the culinary arts, helping veterans and military spouses seeking to enhance their culinary talents.
Thanks everyone for tuning into this episode. Today we have Jordan Foley, who is the founder, CEO, and head chef at Let's Chow. Thank you so much, Jordan, for your time today.
Thank you, Joseph. Really excited to be on the show today, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, great. So per usual, we like to start our episodes with asking what the mission statement is of your organization. So what is the mission of Let's Chow?
Let's Chow is a one-of-a-kind culinary nonprofit that helps veterans, military spouses, and military-connected refugees start their own culinary business. And we do that through food truck training. And with a lot of our training and meal production, we actually fight food insecurity as a means to not only get the training hours for the people in our program, but also help the cities where our food trucks reside.
Awesome. We're going to get into that because I'm really excited. This is a pretty unique nonprofit. But why you? Why is this something that you're devoting your time and effort to?
Yeah, and it's interesting too because this is, I'm a part-time unpaid CEO and founder of this organization because I'm still active duty, and that is my primary role. I'm active duty Navy, but I started Let's Chow because I experienced in 2019 the death by suicide of a friend and veteran who was trying to start some businesses on his own and fell into debt and depression. And I became disheartened with the organizations out there that were helping veterans start businesses. It seemed like there were a lot of organizations, but they were pretty consistently a mile wide and an inch deep, as I like to say. They say they can help any veteran start any business, but at the end of the day, they didn't really get too deep into those processes. So over the course of that year, I started to think about inverting the model. What if I hyper-focused in one industry so deeply that I could take a veteran who had potentially zero knowledge in that industry to business ownership? And me, growing up in a big Italian family, cooking, and I just love food. It was a passion that I thought I could marry this concept with. So in January of 2020, Let's Chow was born, and we thought, what is the best training ground? What would be a training ground that could teach all the aspects we're trying to teach? And the food truck popped up as the perfect microcosm of the culinary industry because you're marketing, you're mincing onions, you're sourcing the menu, you're really doing everything in that truck. And another aspect of it is mobile. We can get in the food insecure areas. We can get to people who need our food, and we can get to multiple different customer bases. So from January 2020 on, we've grown to a national nonprofit with 4 food trucks, and we continue to expand our model to include this year we'll be starting 18 different businesses, and we're only growing year by year. So that's really been the start and the reasoning. But for me, it came from just some personal tragedy, but then willingness to want to help others. And my thought and drive every day is, I do this during my free time. I don't get paid to do this, but the number 22 is significant because that's how many veterans die by suicide every day. And my thought is, well, if I can help people achieve financial freedom, success, and their goals, and I can be one small part of reducing that number, then I think all this time and effort's worth it.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that. I'd love to hear about the initial history and the initial inception of the organization. What was kind of the first concept, if it was an initial food truck, and who was a participant? I'd love to hear the origins and start from there.
The origins are interesting because, we said we started in January 2020. I think we all remember, March 2020 and the COVID pandemic that followed. So, we didn't start with any funding. It was, just out of my pocket. But we got people interested. We marketed, we put some feelers out there on social media, and we had a few veterans and military spouses really interested in the idea of starting a culinary business through us. We didn't have the food truck for about a year. Then we finally got our first. But during that pandemic year, we found that a lot of states and counties were not authorizing this type of sale to customers. So what we did is we pivoted to saying, well, if we can't sell to customers from a tailgate grill and a tent because of COVID, we can still donate meals, and people are still going to be hungry. People are still in need during the pandemic. So, what we started to do is partnering with local nonprofits that owned kitchens, churches, American Legions, organizations like that. And then we would go to local businesses, and most of them better known businesses, and say, could you provide $200 for this weekend? We're going to make 100 pulled pork sandwiches for example, Baltimore Station, a homeless veterans shelter. And we would just kept doing that, and we kept posting and saying what we're doing, but we're getting the training hours, we're growing, and then simultaneously we're pitching this idea in competitions, all remote on Zoom. So we're, in a Texas competition pitching over Zoom, and a DC competition, and we started winning, to the point where we ended up winning a national competition through Sam Adams, Brewing the American Dream, after we had already finally got enough funds for our first truck. But the climax, was getting this first truck, and then once we started winning national competitions, that's really when the momentum built. And it went from using these small basement kitchens in a church or an old American Legion, and producing 200, 300, 400 meals, sometimes cookies for children in foster homes, and we were doing good in the community, but the big thing was we were doing specific targeted lessons for the culinary space. Cookies, that's a portioning lesson, and meal prep, things like that. All this stuff really fed into the curriculum. And then by the end of all of this, we said, well, we can start selling now. We're in the truck. We can start selling, and we can start growing our businesses this way. And overwhelmingly, the people in our program said, well, it would feel incomplete to do Let's Chow without the food insecurity component. And it's just, I think it's just a testament to the veterans and the military spouses in the program, because service is just such a part of their DNA. That really was what made them whole. And that was, that's now one of our major components and continues to be.
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously the Navy is doing something right to keep you around, and obviously you're very passionate about the Navy and veterans and armed services in this case, to start a nonprofit supporting them. Why? Like what does the Navy mean to you? What does the military mean to you, and how has it meant over kind of your professional career?
Yeah, it's going on 15 years for me now, including my time at the Naval Academy, which is a military school. So 11 years as a commissioned officer, and I think it's fed really deeply into my personality. And also I think my brother and I both went to service academies, and we're actually both active duty, and we like to say that growing up with our mother, who fed us so much food and was so great to us, but she was a tough Italian woman, and we said both of us decided to go to military schools to kind of lay back and take a break from growing up with our mom.
Yeah.
So that it's
Yep.
it definitely fit into our personalities. And for me, helping sailors, I did that as a submarine officer, working with them, and now as a Navy JAG. They're some of the greatest people I've ever met, some of the smartest people too, and just being able to help them. The service itself, large organizations are often imperfect, and I think that's just humans are imperfect. So I understand, there'd be the change you want to see. There's all these comments. How can you change things if you're on the inside or the outside? Well, it's something where I want to see the Navy benefit more of its sailors, and I want to see it continue to grow in a more equitable way. And I think that's just it takes time, and it just takes advocacy. I was, in the academy when Don't Ask, Don't Tell was still a policy, seeing that's impact. And then when it was rolled back, and seeing how good that was. And then also I was in several working groups for diversity, equity, inclusion as well, and including on the Naval Academy Minority Association group, seeing how as a force, we're starting to think more about people, more about equity, and seeing now women being able to serve in every combat role, when that really wasn't a thing from the 80s and 90s up until recently with Navy SEALs allowing women. So it's interesting because there's this constant frustration, but knowing that at its core, I think it can be a great organization and help a lot of people and do a lot of good. But like any big organization, it's tough. It's tough to see that change through as one individual. But I definitely find it as the profession of arms does define me in a lot of ways. But what keeps me here are the sailors, not the title, not the rank or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, and then kind of fast forward, food insecurity. When Let's Chow started, did you focus on nonprofits that supported veterans, or was it just anywhere where there was food insecurity nearby wherever you guys were based?
It was just a canvas of really any partnership we could get. We just felt
Yeah.
like it was, we call it force multiplying in the military. You know, when you're able to combine forces, whether it's with allies of foreign countries or different services. Well, that was our force multiplication analogy. Was any nonprofit we could work with, we would work with, and provide food to them, homeless shelters, foster homes, things like that. At the heart of it, we were focused on getting our veterans and military spouses the time in the kitchen that they needed,
Yep.
that's really what we did. But anybody who came to us, and the other thing too to note is, we didn't just solicit veteran-owned businesses, but predominantly over 90% of the donations we received for food insecurity for about a year came from veteran-owned businesses, and I think that
Yeah.
speaks again to the way we look at small businesses owned by veterans, and them still being willing to donate in a time where businesses were closing their doors for good for a long
Yeah.
time there. And I think that was truly inspiring to me, and I don't think gets enough recognition. And I don't know if it ever will, but those veteran business owners, from tattoo parlors to insurance companies, to just, all across all the services and trades, were more than willing to give us a few $100s to make some meals for people who needed it.
Yeah. Wow. Have you been able to track, and are you spending time on tracking how many people you've fed that from homeless shelters or that are insecure food access, that have insecure food access, and also on the veteran sides? Is that something that you're spending time with now, devoting to, or is it just heads down and cruising forward?
We like to keep track, especially because we have a pretty good formula for how many meals we can provide on the dollar. We have a
Mhm.
program at point of sale, so we do sell to customers fairly often. I would say a third of our meals go to food insecure events, but the rest is
Yeah.
for customer events. And at point of sale, we always ask a customer, where put after the tip, it says, would you like to pay it forward with the number four and a dollar sign, and that's you can add $4 to your meal, and that pays for that same restaurant quality style meal for somebody in need in the future. So
Yeah.
we rack
That's
up
awesome.
we rack up these pay it forwards, and then we know when we have $400, we can provide 100 meals, and we do that. And we'll partner with food drives. That's a really popular event where we find that people are walking through a line picking up canned goods, and children are with them, and it's pretty clinical. It's a necessity, but having the food truck and like a glass bottle Coke and an empanada and some music at the end, you see the kids sprinting through the line to get to the truck, and you let them, you like that because they understand that this isn't, we don't want this to be a bad memory for them. I mean, everybody needs help sometimes, and for them to feel like they're lesser or can't experience the same joys
Yeah.
that other children can, just because of their socioeconomic background, we don't think's right. So that pay it forward feeds into that. We tally up our meals, every year of what we donate, and usually a truck can get about 400 meals downrange a month very easily. And the more events
Yep.
we're able to pull is actually just dependent upon pay it forward at this point, and it's pretty successful. But we'd like to see more. And for me, I love customer sales. I think it's a great experience for our veteran-owned businesses. But my passion is to get more meals into food insecure events, to get the trucks directly into food insecure areas, and that's definitely going to be a funding push here in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. And how many trucks are y'all at now? You said four?
Yep. Yeah, four. We have four
Yep.
trucks. We have a San Diego-based truck serving right now Filipino street food, very popular in Southern California. Actually, it's in the top 5% of earnings for food trucks there, so it's really doing well in the winery and brewery scene. And then we have an Atlantic City food truck that's partnered with Atlantic Cape Community College. So not only do our veterans in the program in Atlantic City get to work it, but the students and the veterans in the culinary program at the school get to utilize it, and it actually plays plays into a certificate-based class, food truck operations class for them. And that is a range of cuisine from Spanish tapas to Philly cheesesteaks. Interesting, what's in the truck at whatever given time. And then the Annapolis, DC-based truck is actually our pilot refugee program. We have 4
Yep.
Afghan refugees who were interpreters for the U.S. military and U.S. government, and now live in Silver Spring, and they're serving their own Afghan cuisine from that truck, and it's doing really well. Most recently, that truck was actually a military spouses coffee company, and they were doing coffee and pastries, and now they're moving to a brick and mortar actually because of the the product market fit they got through the truck. And then last is Miami, Fort Lauderdale. We actually have another coffee-based company, a military spouse and veteran, and they're serving coffee and pastries out of that truck down there, and trying to grow their business from a consumer packaged goods standpoint. So they're not going to be a food truck
Yep.
forever, but they want to get the popularity of their beans and get them into shelves. And the best way to do that is not to sit at a farmer's market without the product. It's to have a food truck and drive around and then have people taste it and then buy it. So that's what our newest and most exciting at the moment business we're starting up, because this is going to be their first shot at this, and that's why we're here to help and do that.
Yeah. And what does the future hold? Like, what is your plan? Obviously, you need the people to that are wanting to start their own food truck or learn more about the culinary industry. Is there like a wait list, or how is your future scale planned?
Yeah, there's not so much a wait list where we have, between 5, 10, sometimes 15 people working at different types in the truck. So, you have people who are advanced business models, and, there's only a finite amount
Yeah.
of people who can operate the truck in a 7-day week. But then there's people who say, I've always just wanted to get in the food service, and I want to start. So we have online training for them, and then they come in as line cooks for the businesses that are there. So you have different levels. You can consider it like school grades or something like that, but it's a progressive type model. So we do have we fit anybody in those areas who wants to join. We have fit them in, and we have not waitlisted anyone. The challenge we find is we just can't have food trucks everywhere. And even our inquiries in Texas alone, the ones we've received in the past year, they are geographically diverse enough where we would have to have 11 food trucks in Texas to meet those demands. And it's, what
Jeez.
we're looking at is, there's no way ever we're just going to be able to purchase a truck for every inquiry. But we can actually, like we said in the beginning, how do you flip models? How do you spread it out this way, or do you focus one way? And the way we're flipping this is we're working towards a brick and mortar where it would be a hub. People could fly in, and we would, have them stay for 3-week boot camps or something like that. And
Yep.
that's the one option that we're looking at, and that's a long term. And then the shorter term actually is our traveling boot camp, which is a top of the line truck that we want to double as disaster relief, where it can get to many places and drive, and tornadoes, hurricanes, floods, things like that, can provide hot meals, but also can have a planned schedule maybe throughout the summer months and drive up and down the American coasts, or and provide 2-3 weeks at a time, or people to introduce themselves to the truck and say, okay, well, like maybe this is for me. I'll learn a little bit this week, or block off some time, and then they can continue to progress there. So the traveling boot camp, and then the brick and mortar where we would bring people in. And I think that's going to solve these problems where, we just can't meet that demand geographically, but what if we brought them in to 2 specific locations? So that's what the future holds. I think we're going to keep expanding the fleet. But those 2 are now top priority for long-term funding.
Oh, wow. Well, this is amazing. This is inspiring. So if people that are listening and want to get engaged, whether that's donating their time, talent, treasure, testimony, what type of engagement do you look for?
We look for everything. In-person engagement and volunteering is always great at events. Monetary donations are, of course, accepted and go to great causes. So they can also, earmark them for meals, for training, for things like that. We ask people to just take a look at our website and look at the businesses. I mean, even if you want to go out and you're in those cities and you want to go go out and eat, go eat at one of our trucks. If we're, the calendars match up and the events match up, you're supporting those businesses directly. That's not actually a revenue stream for us. That revenue goes to the business. That's how they grow. So we're not, Let's Chow doesn't actually make money from the sales of the food from the businesses there. That goes to them. So if you like Afghan cuisine, look up our DC truck on letschow.org. You'll see the tabs and see where you can find them. And if you're in Southern California, Joselle's Kitchen, which is the name of the business out of our San Diego truck, is just been getting rave reviews. And same goes for New Jersey and Miami when we get Miami started here in the next couple months. But go there and be a customer. I think that's the thing. I think it's the lowest hanging fruit in a lot of ways. And I think I even ask that outside of that context, right? Go support veteran-owned businesses, no matter what they are. Go look for small businesses that are veteran-owned and just try to support them, and see what their trade is and their craft is and what they offer. And then as far as donations go, we have a donation portal. It's on letschow.org, and there's a take action tab and a donate tab. And we're always more than happy to talk to anybody who wants to just put in a general inquiry and think, hey, maybe time and money isn't what you're able to give, but a connection. A veteran who would be really good at this, and then we'll do an intake call with them, and or a military spouse, or a military connected refugee. Any of those qualify. So that'd be the best way. So just kind of volunteering, of course, monetary donations, go support a truck. And then also, if you know somebody or know maybe another partner nonprofit, just go through the general inquiry form. It's a pretty simple submission tab, and you'll find your way. And if you can't, you can always email me or email info@letschow.org to find out more.
Yeah. Any plans for Chicago? I have to ask.
Actually, we have a great organization we work with, and a lot of their graduates come to our program called Dog Tag Bakery, which just recently expanded to Chicago. So in the same vein of go support veteran-owned businesses is go check out Dog Tag Chicago, and Dog Tag DC as well. They just expanded there, and we work with them. Get a lot of their graduates who are ready for the next step of developing it. But as somebody who loves Chicago cuisine, from a hot dog to the pizza, to the cinnamon rolls and the Swedish heritage up there near Loyola, I would be more than happy to get a food truck in there. And I know food truck culture there is amazing, which is another major thing we look into for the calculus, city regulations and things like that. So we'd be more than happy to bring it there. But if you can find us a couple of veterans who are serious about it, we've been known to make that happen in less than about 6 months, and that's how fast San Diego happened. And that's a serious offer. If we find the right people and we work with them for a little bit in some donation meal capacity, and we like what they do, we've been known to make trucks appear in less than half a year.
Yeah, and the refugee model too you mentioned is really interesting. I know there's probably potential for that too, in tons of different cities, but Chicago too. Is that something that you're also trying to replicate, or was that just that you responded to a need and just the people that wanted to create that truck?
It started by responding to a need, and then looking at them as, the interpreters, the people who worked with U.S. government and DoD, they risked their lives. They've lost family. They've had to leave everything behind. And our thought is, they've sacrificed a lot for, the war as well. So we opened it up recently to include them in the same way we include veterans and military spouses. So in the same way that, a veteran would just need to show proof of service, or a military spouse would just need to show something similar. We just ask for the same, any type of military government connection from the refugee and refugee status, or the person or the family. And then we get them into the program. And once you're in the program, you're called a fellow. You're not a refugee fellow. You're not a veteran fellow. You're just a fellow. So you have access to everything. And that's really how the intake works.
Yep. Awesome. Well, Jordan, thank you so much for your time. Letschow.org. You guys have a Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, all the things it looks like. So people that are listening, check them out. Do all the actions that Jordan mentioned. Go visit one of the food trucks. And if you're a veteran and are really interested in this concept, please reach out as well. This is great, Jordan. Any last words or anything we didn't cover, or anything you want to leave us with before we close it off?
No, this was great. And I thank you for your time, Joseph, and just really getting our message out there. And, like we say to all our fellows every day is just go do good and be good. Get out there and do good for the truck, feed the customers, and then be good. Be a good person all the time. And that's really the best advice I ever got from my grandma, who's, the Italian cook I grew up with. So just do good and be good. And that's really all we can ask of one another. So I thank you. And please, have anybody reach out to me directly or use our site as a conduit for information. We're very responsive and always happy to talk.
Awesome. Thank you, Jordan, again, so much for your time. I appreciate it. And we're honored to share your story and the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Joseph. Have a good day. Thanks again.
Thanks for tuning into this episode. If you know of a great organization or individual leaving a positive impact, we'd love to tell their story. Check us out and contact us at gtzp.org. Don't forget, for more stories like this, you could also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Instagram followers, our link trees in the bio. And for podcast listeners, we're on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Thanks for listening, and see you again soon.